No, I look. I'm going to do the best I can to stay within the lines that are terrifying me. But yeah, I don't think I've done an interview for nearly half a decade. I'm very excited about this Fetterman guy. He's my new fascination. They're fish flops. I will show you.
Oh,
and you start to wear things like this. And somebody got it for me as a joke, and they're the most comfortable things I've ever had on my feet. So I live exclusively in crushed velvet handmade slippers from Jermyn Street in England, and fish flops.
well,
You know what? I have $2,000 like Versace brocade, slides and all the rest of it. I get no compliments remotely close to how much people love these shoes. I get asked, I think, 10 times a day, where did you get those shoes? So yeah, no, I'm basically living the life of an eccentric retiree. I do a lot of work behind the scenes for people now, so I get sort of all of the clout, influence, and income without any of the stress of being in public. I don't really know how to talk to normal people anymore because I've just been a regular human for 5 years. So I don't know how to do the coloring between the lines thing. Probably not so difficult for you, but those of us who are compelled to break the rules with every breath we take, I don't think people want. I think that people used to be engaged in politics because they wanted to get a glimpse of a better world. But that's the washing powder version of politics. I think people are well into bitterness. I think people want to see the bad guys bleed. I think that people want to see reimagine the world in a better way because I think people are losing hope in that. I think people want to see their antagonists suffer. Republican frustration is that they were expecting moment of catharsis, which is not granted often to people with right-of-centre politics, a moment in which they could reassure themselves that sometimes justice is done, that the universe is capable of delivering true justice where it is warranted. And they were robbed of that. So what was stolen from them was not some kind of, washing powder commercial glimpse of a better future. What was stolen from them was revenge. Yeah. Because these people don't feel like they've been out of power, and that's a shame. They feel like they articulate their feelings now in very religious terms, and they talk about their enemies in terms of demons, devils, and Satan. I think the sunk emotional cost that they had attached to the midterms as a moment when they could reassure themselves that maybe there was when something happens that always happens, that happens whether you campaign or not, that happens whether you do anything or not. That's not a victory. That's people perceive that as a kind of as a sort of the fabric of their civilization apart. Doing all kinds of things that we'll talk about in the to suffer. They wanted to see the I forget what the Conan quote is. I haven't seen it for 25 years, but no. What happened in this election was not only were the leaders in the Republican Party removing spending from some of the most inspirational and popular candidates, which itself is a form of demoralization, and sabotaging some of the candidates that had the most promise for upsets. What they correctly intuited is that this was another example of the powers that be in the Republican Party actively sabotaging the candidates that the base likes most because they hate them. That's what happened. The powers that be in the Republican Party sabotaged some of the candidates that were the most popular with the base, and changed the result of some of those elections through removing millions of dollars in spending. So the Republicans are acting out not because they're babies who are choosing to be losers. They're acting out because they were wronged and they know it. Match how people feel about Biden. They don't. Now, there are candidates that are weird special cases, like Fetterman, who has inspired sympathy. And he's just, I can't help but sort of like the guy. It just brings out, kind of a warm feeling. I just kind of want to see him succeed because I see him struggling and is to want to help them. Like I watched that debate and I wanted to vote for the guy. What people are seeing is results that are out of step with how they know people feel about this presidency. And the reason those results are out of step is the Republican leadership.
Do you think
who didn't just sit by and say, let's just let what happens happen? They actively sabotaged the chances of some of the most populist, nationalist, Trump-adjacent characters. It is, and voters are a little bit better informed and a little bit more intelligent, I think, than the Washington people give them credit for. They have correctly intuited betrayal. They are not upset because the results were, they didn't get enough seats. They are justly incensed and indignant because they know that they have been betrayed by the people they pay to have their backs. I think the country should split in half. I'm very much in favor of a national divorce. The Republican Party is an entity that survives despite failing to understand how to talk like human beings, how to talk to human beings, and how to reflect the concerns of the voters who, out of the indefatigability of the human spirit, keep hoping for the best and voting for them anyway. The party is not fit for purpose, and if it doesn't reinvent itself in Trump's image, it doesn't deserve to live. I don't think anybody is seriously in favor of DeSantis unless they're paid to be. Seemed a little bit pathetic. And my hope is that he will announce soon and get his mojo back, because at the same time as he's taking these very light touch, teasing pot shots at DeSantis, who has zero chance of succeeding. Look, DeSantis is almost as popular as Trump in some bits of Florida, but don't ask them to choose, because he is gone the second they have to choose between him and Trump. Don't get it twisted, okay? He has no chance. It is not happening. You're out of your mind if you think that somebody with the charisma of a potted cactus can go up against Donald Trump and not end as just another casualty on the list. You're out of your mind. And looking at the rogues gallery of people who are being paid to support DeSantis, I think unless you can provide a compelling case, which to date I have not heard, you are being charmingly naive. The worst people in this country who want more than anything for the will of the people to be subverted. They want to suffocate Trump and all he stands for, and he is, of course, merely a proxy. He's a shorthand for a variety of things that they hate about Americans. They hate the gaucheness of the South. They hate everything about the South. They hate Appalachia, with its lack of sophistication. They despise and are contemptuous of the people who love Trump. And these places that vote for Trump have drug problems. It's because the coastal elites systematically killed these towns by taking all the manufacturing abroad. Clout of Republican places, and the result of that is like human misery on a scale that nobody really truly comprehends. There's now no reason for many of these towns in the South to exist, and they stagger on with no factories, with no jobs, with no hope of self-destructive behaviors. That was done to them. That was the thing that was done to them. Okay, and Trump is a neat shorthand for the kinds of people that coastal elites consider to be beneath them. And the DeSantis project is about ensuring that Trump was a temporary, unfortunate blip, never to be repeated. Because they think they have the right to determine that. They think they have the right to dictate that. I don't think that's going to pan out for them. Well, you just said it. Trump is the X factor. Trump is a once-in-a-generation charismatic authority that cannot be replicated. It cannot be imitated. As somebody who has a little slice of that kind of charisma myself, and has experienced a retinue of desperate clingers and imitators in my life, I can tell you it never pans out trying to, just snatch the bits that you can stomach from the guy everybody loves, and otherwise keep serving your special interests. Well, Trump is a look. Whether you believe in God or not, you could express this in terms of ordainment if you wanted to, or you could just say that some people are born with a magical kind of personality. it's precisely that magical intangible that you try to articulate and stumble, and then what happened in 2016 was the last time that half this country felt good about themselves and like there might be hope. You cannot fight that.
Hope for what?
Trump.
What?
Their world wouldn't be ripped apart by social engineering and by other things I can't mention right now until the third hour. But there are things going on in this country that threaten the very basis of our civilization, that stem from original sins like women's suffrage, but go all the way through to more modern fads and manias to do with things we can't talk about. But there is the people are keenly aware that the physical reality of the world they live in, the facts they took for granted, are being ripped apart by. So Trump in 2016. I was very blessed to have the opportunity to be such a big part of that, because that was the last time that an entire half of this country felt like things might end up okay. And he turned out to be disappointing in office, but how could he ever have been how could he ever have ended up otherwise? The reason that people will flock to him, because he was the last guy that made them feel like justice and hope. So when Christianity comes into Europe in the Middle Ages, right? Its real innovation is a sort of intensely religious people singing and dancing. They found this way to be happy that doesn't involve killing yourself. In some sort of slow motion suicide, people who are full of the joy of the incarnation, and you have gargoyles pulling faces on cathedrals. You have religious people with smiles on their faces. One of the emotional the capstones of Western civilization is that joy. Another characteristic of our artistic tradition is yearning or longing, right? Most great works of art are about reaching for something, about that sort of romantic frustration or whatever. But one of the sort of the emotional building blocks of our civilization is joy in Christ, happiness for its own sake, schoolmarmishness and restrictions and regulations, the kind of intolerable and oppressive conditions under which some people valiantly continue to labor, is a gradual suffocating of a joy. There's nothing recognizable as comedy on television anymore. That gradual erosion of happiness, people feel that. They're aware of it. They won't articulate it in the way that I did, but they're aware of it, and they know that the last time that something good happened was this crazy guy that they remembered from a TV show, who suddenly inspired them with confidence that maybe it wasn't too late to beat back the hordes of hell. Let me tell you, the moment that guy that gets his mojo back, there isn't anybody else on the field. Reflexive, natural understanding of their people, and he's an interesting anomaly, because typically you see this in Europe where there are more explicitly established class systems, right? So a class operates in America, but everybody pretends it doesn't exist, which is why you don't really understand half of what's happening. But whatever petty humiliations visited upon those brave enough to raise their head above the parapet, I don't think those ultimately inconsequential humiliations have much of an effect at all. Accept the cost of that and what comes with it, and those sort of spectacles, those moments in culture, those moments in history, they linger for decades. They have an effect vastly more complex and far-reaching than people usually appreciate. And when people watched certain things happening to center-right popular funny guys, it will shape the thinking of Republican voters for decades. The fact that there is for all of the wailing of the left about systemic injustice, which can never really be located or convincingly explained, there is a hideous injustice that has been visited on them and many of the people that they have admired and loved.
Yep.
That stuff shapes the way that people live and the way they think. It shapes their opinions of new players on the scenes. The whole apparatus of the party was deeply committed to a business model that Trump threatened to wreck inside a generation. The gravy train might be over if he succeeded. The antibody response, that you saw to Trump was the aggressive, ruthless, sociopathic response of people who are wedded to earthly riches, seeing their hoard threatened by somebody who could, cast a spell and impoverish them. I wouldn't want 2016-17 to have played out any other way. What possible better story is there than of these people who were, it's like, people were robbed of us, it sounds conceited to say, but, this fascinating and exciting corner, well, it wasn't a corner, it was culture really, was sort of wiped out by bad people with bad intentions, and no one was ever held accountable for it, and everybody feels poorer as a result. Without cancel culture, you wouldn't operate under the appalling conditions that you do. I don't know how you do it every day. I couldn't get up in the morning, and I that's why I don't wish for it to go any differently than it did. I think the lasting impression and the righteous indignation that produced